Hello, I'm Dr. Sri Banerjee, certified astrologer, and in this video I'm going to be going over a period that is in Vedic astrology known as Sade Sati. And I know the spelling doesn't seem like it. You might be pronouncing it as Sade Sati or something, but the fact stands that the proper pronunciation is Sade Sati. So let's go ahead and get started here. So in this segment, what I wanted to do is start off by looking at what happens in the Sade Sati. And that has to do with the moon and the transiting Saturn. So the moon here is in the 10th house. So the Sade Sati is when Saturn goes through 9th, 10th, part of 9th, 10th, and then part of 11th. This is comprised of 3 houses when this happens. And the reason it's called Sade Sati is that because it's about 7.5 years that this is felt. So let's define what Sade Sati is and then move forward here. So the definition is that a person already has Saturn and Moon conjunction is likely to face. So it's not just the definition. I'm trying to explain the configurations that make Sade Sati worse than others. So a person who already has Saturn and Moon in their natal chart conjunction, they will have a more difficult time during the Sade Sati, which is the natal Moon with the transiting Saturn. And I'm going to repeat that so that you know this properly. So a person already going through Saturn period in terms of Mahadasha, which I've explained in another lecture, those that are going through that Mahadasha will face, of Saturn Mahadasha will face this more strongly. Vata, I'm introducing some Ayurveda here. The 3 types of elements in Ayurveda are Vata, which is air, and then Pitta, which is fire, and then Kapha, which is earth. So any sort of imbalance where one is more dominant than the other can cause something called doshas. So these are things that you want to remedy during your lifetime before it starts to become worse. So in terms of Sade Sati, it takes Saturn 29 years to go around the whole natal chart. So every 29 years you feel this. So if you experience it earlier in life, then you might be experiencing about 3 of these in your whole lifetime. So, and that's the next point I'm trying to make. Since a person at 70 years of age is likely to see at least 2 or even 3 Sade Satis in their life, the latter part of life, when Vata goes high, this may create issues during Sade Sati. This is a thumb rule. So this is explaining further what I had explained already, and that is that Vata is constituted by space and air, which is the energy of movement. Fire and water constitute Pitta. Pitta is constituted by, again, fire and water, and that's the principle fire, which is digestion, and then metabolism, of course, fire and water. Kapha is actually not just earth, but water and earth, and the dosha of structure and lubrication. So joint pain, anywhere there's lubrication. There might be saliva, less saliva, like in Sjogren's syndrome or other types of disorders. And then some of the origins of disease, of course, is unhealthy diet according to Ayurveda, stress, repressed emotions, and insufficient exercise. And that disturbs one of the doshic balances. And as I was explaining to you, Vata, Pitta, Kapha needs to be in balance for you to maintain good health. Those are the 3 doshas, and they increase or decrease as conditions come and go. So again, kind of going over the Ayurvedic elements that are present in the body, and that's Vata, which is ether and air, Pitta, which is fire and water, and Kapha, which is earth and water. So what are the bad houses and aspects which affect the Sade Sati or Saturn return, the Saturn-Moon conjunction more strongly? So whenever there's bad houses and they become activated, this means whenever they go through the main period of lords, of Mahadashas, of 3, 6, 8, 12, they're likely to face more material dents in their life. If a person faces Sade Sati during the activation of these houses, he or she is likely to face more discomfort. And then in Ayurvedic terms, activation of these houses, 3, 6, 8, 12, increases Vata. So now, on the other hand, a person very high on Mars, but low on Vata, passed through Sade Sati. So balancing out some of the Ayurvedic elements, Vata, Pitta, and Kapha, you're trying to align some of the planets with some of the Ayurvedic elements. So if you think of Mars, Mars is a very fiery planet, and a fiery planet can be signified by Pitta. However, Saturn is considered Vata, which means that there's more air involved, and I'm going to explain this, a kind of cooling air. And so when a person goes through a Sade Sati, they're benefited from materialistically, as Sade Sati calms down the excess fire or heat. And so Kapha is the tissues within the body of the person, and by taming the ego, inertia, and tamasic energy. Tamasic is kind of energy that needs to be self-actualized into rajasic and then sattvic. So there's 3 types. Sattvic is more saintly. Rajasic is more living day to day, and then tamasic is more of the sexual urges. So these are all being symbolized by the planets within the heavens. So to help realize these deeper aspects of life, both material, which is considered by Mars, and spiritual, which is more considered Saturn, Vata actually brings intelligence because it's able to calm down that fire. So a lot of the Vata actually creates interneural connections even, as when you have, according to Ayurveda, less blood flowing to the nerves. And then typically Mars people have wide blood vessels, and so a lot of blood with forces moving. I would suspect that these individuals also have propensity to get high blood pressure or hypertension. So a lot of nutrition and strength to the native, whereas Saturn weakens this force due to constriction of vessels and obstructions. And that makes sense in terms of in a symbolic representation. So the final portion of this segment will be about just talking about Sade Sati, which means it's 7.5 years that I explained. And then something that went on within the last about 30 years or so, keeps repeating, and understanding these patterns will help you better understand your life and manage your life in a way that you never could think of before. So I hope this has given you some insight as to what the auspicious or inauspicious, depending on your chart, is when you have a natal moon transited by Saturn, or Sade Sati, which is 7.5 years. Thank you for listening.